can watch. Okay. We are live and recording. Welcome everybody to the Chicago Elementor meetup, where we will go over Make Your Elementor website accessible. Maureen Roberts will be our presenter. Before we get to that, PowerPoint, move forward. Our meetup will be at the longest about 2 hours long. Let's keep it personal. You can use your video when you're speaking, but please, while Maureen is talking and doing the presenting, please mute yourself. We will be recording this, so if you don't want to be on camera on YouTube, please keep your video off. So this will be going on the Elementor YouTube channel. Also, please join the Slack group if you haven't already. I'll send out a link to that while Maureen starts so that you can get the Google form to request to join our Slack group. We just kind of share different articles and people will share different plugin ideas, and it's continuing to get a little more chattery in there, so it's getting better. So we'll use that to network in between these monthly sessions. All right, meet the presenter, Maureen Roberts. She started her company Signature Graphic Design in 2007. Maureen built her first WordPress website in 2010 and is not embarrassed to say her first resource was WordPress for Dummies. Maureen did get to meet author Lisa Sabin-Wilson at a WordCamp Chicago meeting. She has since grown her library with several website and WordPress resources. She is a member of 2 other WordPress meetups, helps online discussions when she can, and continues to learn more about WordPress every meetup she attends and every web dev she meets. She has presented at her local Chamber of Commerce on website trends. Elementor is her builder of choice, as it is for most of us here, and she's been using it for about 3 years. She designs and builds websites for small businesses and nonprofit organizations. She also provides training for those clients who wish to maintain their own website. Referrals are her main source of business leads. Maureen is an avid reader and has been with her book club for 7 years. Last book read was The Oregon Trail by Rinker Buck, a true story of a modern day journey on the trail in a covered wagon drawn by 3 mules. I remember playing the game in like 4th grade. Fun game. It was like when computers were first invented. She also belongs to a hiking group and will hike in the winter as long as the temperature does not drop below -20. Yes, that is -20. In the summer, Maureen enjoys kayaking. She also earned her BA in education and studio art at Hunter College in Manhattan, and her MBA from Farley Dickinson University in Hackensack, New Jersey. Is that right? You get that right?
Fairleigh Dickinson.
Fairleigh Dickinson. Okay.
Yeah, close enough.
Got it. Okay, cool. All right. Well, with that, please warm welcome for Maureen, as she will help us make our Elementor websites more accessible. Please welcome Maureen.
Okay. Thank you, guys. All right. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Can you all see my screen?
Not yet. You might have to click share one more time.
Right.
All right,
It's coming.
Okay. All right. Let me just get a little organized here. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining me tonight and listening to my presentation on website accessibility. I want to first start off by saying the reason why I'm giving this presentation is because I know that website accessibility is a hot topic, and I didn't know a whole lot about it. I didn't know what was involved in making a site accessible. I didn't know if there was a lot of hard coding involved. I did know that there are lawsuits involved with websites that are not accessible. So this was an impetus for me to do research, and I'm going to share this all with you. But with that being said, I want to make it clear I am not an accessibility expert, but I think I can certainly get you on a right path with good information and lots of resources. So let's go over what we're going to cover tonight. I'm going to describe to you what accessibility is. We're going to review the Americans with Disability Act. We're going to talk a little bit about accessibility lawsuits. we're going to talk about website accessibility. We'll talk about conformance levels. And then we're going to get to the good part, which is what we can do to build accessible websites. I have a tool that I'm going to share with you on how you can evaluate your website or somebody else's website for accessibility. Then I have a lot of resources, tools, and plugins for you. And then we could kind of wrap it up with some Q&A. I have a couple of questions that I don't have the answers for, and I'm hoping that maybe you all can share your thoughts on that. Okay, so what is accessibility? Accessibility means that people with a disability can do what they need to do in a similar amount of time and effort as someone that does not have a disability. So this is not only for websites, which is what we'll be talking about tonight. This is for physical areas, parks, buses, offices. So that's what accessibility is about. What is the Americans with Disability Act? The ADA became law in 1990. It is a civil rights law that prohibits discrimination against individuals with disabilities in all areas of public life. Now, Title II, which I'm sure that you've heard thrown around a little bit, it applies to state and local government entities, and it protects qualified individuals with disabilities from discrimination, particularly when hiring. Title III, which you have probably heard more about, prohibits discrimination in places of public accommodations, such as businesses that are open to the public, as well as commercial facilities, factories, office buildings, or warehouses. So that's just a real quick and dirty review of the Americans with Disability Act. Now, how do websites fit into Title III of the ADA? In 2019, a blind man sued Domino's Pizza because their website was not compatible with his screen reading technology, and this man won. He argued that because Domino's was providing a public service, the ordering of a pizza online, that the site must be designed to be accessible to everyone. He won this suit. But Domino's was not very happy about this, and they made a petition to the Supreme Court. And they said that extending the ADA to similar businesses that have online ordering capabilities could result in thousands of accessibility lawsuits. The Supreme Court did not agree with Domino's, and they denied the petition because the ADA does apply to any business that is publicly accessed, such as ordering food or clothing online. So I'm doing a little research. I came across an article by the Columbia University Law Review, and there was some discussion about why don't we update the ADA law regularly? And their feeling is that the internet is an integral part of our daily lives, and people with disabilities should have equal access to the services provided online. And when this is key, a 2020 rewrite of the ADA would not account for 2030 technology. So if you, before I continue, are there any questions about the ADA and how it applies now to websites? No questions? Okay. Can you all hear me? Yes, okay. Thanks, Tyler. Okay.
Actually, there's a point there that is important, and it is that in California, it's where they said that the website, The websites are legally a public accessible location, and that's why ADA fits in for websites.
Yes.
Legally a publicly accessible location.
Yes. And that is it. It's a public accommodation, I believe, is the wording that they use. So, you know, we talked about a little bit about lawsuits. So there is a website, and it is, let's see, I'm going to pull that up quickly for you. It is a website called accessibility.com. And it appears that this is a group of advocates for those with disabilities. And what they do is, in addition to giving useful information, they list the lawsuits that have been taken against companies whose websites they deem not accessible. And they win a lot. So here you can see, this is just March 31st, you can see all of these websites.
Maureen, sorry to interrupt you. I think you are just sharing your slides, so the website is not coming up. Didn't mean to interrupt, but it seemed like that was important to see.
Yes, it was. Let's see.
So click stop share, and then you can just reshare. And then if you reshare your entire screen, that'll get you there.
Maureen, if you're going to be sharing a lot of websites and a lot of reference information,
Yeah.
you know where I'm going, slide deck.
Okay, well, I don't have that at the moment. So let me just get back in here.
You're okay. You're good.
Okay, let me get over to Zoom. Okay. All right, guys can see now the accessibility.com website.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, great. So sorry about that. Well, I might have to do a little switching between the sites. So if you look at this again, as I said, this is all for March, and I'm sure there's a lot more for the month of March. Let's just take a look at what's going on and why these companies are being sued. So this is a beverage company, and here are some of the case details. They are being sued because their site is not accessible because it has a lack of alt text on graphics. They have inaccessible drop-down menus, lack of navigation links, lack of adequate prompting and labeling, and I would bet that has to do with forms. Empty links that contain no text, redundant links that go to the same URL address. These are really simple things and things that we can easily take care of, but we need to be aware that these are the types of issues that are being called when it comes to lawsuits. And let me go to another one here. This is same issue, alt text. I see a lot of alt text. Empty links, I see that. I've seen that a lot. I've also seen links that go nowhere, so they're broken links. And if you scroll down, if you do go to this accessibility.com website, you scroll down occasionally, you can see a dollar amount here as part of the damages. I saw $1 amount that was $50,000. So that's a place for you to visit and get a little more information. I'm going to go back to my slideshow.
Maureen, speaking of places to visit, did you notice the list of states on the right-hand side?
Yes, actually. Who was that? Was that Jonathan?
Yes, yes.
New York has the largest number of accessibility lawsuits, followed by California. Illinois, I'm happy to report, had one, but this was like in the month of March. So New York, California.
Well, and imagine, if you have a website that would be of interest to somebody beyond your local area, what do you think about the likelihood of New York and California, if you're, especially if you're, well, if you're a consumer or a business, you know, you're hitting the two most populous states, right?
That's a good point. That's a good point, but I think I feel pretty confident in saying that California may have stronger accessibility laws. I don't really know about New York. I think that might be part of it.
Yes, we do. We have crazy accessibility laws.
Yeah. So, but even
That's
still, New York comes ahead. So I have the link here if you would like to go on your own and check that out and see. It's a good website. Don't just look at the lawsuits, but there's got a lot of other good information there to look at. Okay, so let me just page down. Okay, so what is web accessibility? Continued. As you learn more about accessibility and the guidelines put forth under W3c, the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, you're going to read more about POUR. POUR is the acronym for the 4 main web accessibility principles. So first, it's P for perceivable. For example, if your users are visually impaired, there needs to be alternate ways for them to engage. They need to be able to access and engage the website. It needs to be perceivable. It needs to be operable. They should be able to interact with your site using any physical devices like a keyboard, a mouse, or some assistive device that they want. It needs to be understandable. This part is a little bit easier. Use appropriate headings, font sizes, color, contrast, and we'll talk more about that later. Make the navigation clear and consistent. And it needs to be robust. You have to keep up with new technologies. Users will come to your site and they will use whatever device they need to use to feel comfortable and to engage with the site. So you have to keep on top of that. So you will see POUR, the accessibility principles as you learn more about accessibility. Okay, I've put together a glossary because there's a lot of terminology out there, but let me just go over just a few. The W3c Accessibility Initiative is WAY. And Mike, when I was on the edX, I believe that this is, they were calling the initiative WAY. And let me know if you heard different, but I've been doing it the whole time I've been pulling this together. So I call it WAY. WAY, this initiative develops the standards and support materials to help you understand and implement accessibility. Let me just say that W3c Website Accessibility Initiative has a ton of information, and a ton of links on pages, and you could get a little lost. So at the end, under resources, I've tried to make it a little easier for you to maybe find some important pages. The Website Content Accessibility Guidelines, I'm calling that WCAG for short. It tells you how to make the website more accessible. It gives you some tools and some apps and other information to help with that. Conformance. Conformance is meeting or satisfying the requirements of the WAY standard. And it's called the success criteria. Again, as you learn more about accessibility and you go into different websites, you will see this terminology. I want to just talk about focus because you're going to hear about that a lot. Focus indicates a user interactive component, which is currently selected. So basically, we all probably use a mouse, and if we click on a button, we may hover over it, changes colors, but we know that that button is an interactive element. However, somebody who cannot use a mouse and can only use a keyboard will hit the tab button, and the tab button will land on these interactive components. And for them, that is the focus. And we'll talk a little bit more. I have a website where you can go and learn more about that. So before I continue, any questions about the glossary? Okay, it's a lot of stuff. So it's a lot to take in. All right. Okay, let's talk about the WCAG conformance levels. If your website is at a level A conformance, that is the minimum requirement for accessibility. AA is the medium or good level, and AAA is the gold standard. Now, as I was doing my research, I wanted to figure out where can I be with the conformance levels. Can I be at an A? Should I be at a AAA? So what I have found is that AA seems to be a good level of conformance that you want to meet. And I found this article in Business News Daily, among others, but I thought it had a really good quote here, that if you follow these guidelines to at least level AA, ADA compliance should not be an issue for your company. So I think that's maybe where you want to try and strive for compliance. Okay, here's the fun part, everyone. So how are we going to make our websites compliant with ADA and accessible? Let's talk about color contrast, or even contrast in general. This is really a no-brainer. If you look at this, I'm sure you're already doing it. The left is bad, the right is good. It's readable, it makes sense. You don't have to put forward any extra effort to read that. There are tools on the bottom here, Color Shark and Color Contrast Analyzer. This will help you with website color contrast. Here's another one. Don't use color only to convey information. If you see the example on the left, required fields are in red and the email text is colored red. Well, that's great, but if you're colorblind, you're in trouble. On the right, the example is much better. Required fields are in red and marked with an asterisk. And if you are colorblind, you will know what fields are required. Another something that's very easy to do. Okay, interactive elements. Be consistent throughout your website and let users know. And let me just add that not only those folks who are disabled, but any users to your website, let them know what's happening when they are on your website and add an interactive element. So here we have a default button, different color for hover, active, grayed out if it's disabled. This is something that a person who can only use a keyboard for navigation will see. This is a focus element, and that dotted border around that element tells you that it is a focus element. And if you want some more information about focus, here is a link at the bottom. These slides will be up somewhere after our presentation. We're going to put that up.
We can post them in Slack.
We'll post them in Slack. So you don't have to write any of this down. It will be available. Okay, textual labels for input. I'm reading a lot about forms, and this seems to be an area where we really need to pay attention. And it seems like a no-brainer. On the left, This is good because it tells you or somebody who's disabled what information should go into that form. On the right, this is bad because I don't even know what goes into this bottom field. So it's pretty straightforward. And you have to kind of think as though, not only as though you had a visual disability, but that even for us, that this is something that could be difficult to understand. Here is information on handling form errors. I think that's important. There's a link here and you can learn more. Okay. Clear, consistent options for website navigation. I bet you are all doing that right now. I can't imagine that there is a whole lot of websites out there that don't have consistency in their navigation, that don't have the same fonts, the same colors, the same kind of hover. Again, it's sort of like what we're doing already, but add some extra features to make it easier for easier to be an accessibility site and meet and be compliant with ADA. Have a site search or a site map, so there's more than one way of navigation. And help users know where they are by providing cues such as breadcrumbs and really clear headings so they know what page they're on. Any questions so far with anything that we've talked about? It's pretty straightforward and probably a lot of what we do, which is kind of a relief to know that a lot of what we're doing already is a good accessibility feature. So that's a good thing.
Hey, Maureen, there was a question out there that just popped up in the chat if you want to take it real quick since you're just talking about it. It's from Sarah. She said, how would like tabbing with the keyboard, how is that related to accessibility? Like why would somebody need to know that?
That is a really good question. That is one of the areas that I could not fully understand. I'm not sure. I think there's things that we have to do on our websites to make something called a tabbing index and make tabbing easier. And I'm also wondering if there's something that folks who can only use a keyboard have to do at their end to configure their computer. I'm not
Actually, Steve said it best. It's if they're blind, if they can't see, they're using a screen reader and then they're using their keyboard to navigate. So as they tab through, the screen reader will tell them what the button says because they can't see. So they can't use the mouse to point. They have to use the keyboard to navigate through.
Well, there may be folks who can't use the mouse either for some reason that they have some disability in their hands and they can see, but they can't use the mouse. So I'm hoping that maybe someday we could have a meetup discussion about how the keyboard actually works for accessibility, because I really couldn't get a handle on that. But Sarah, that's a good question. I'm sorry I don't have the final answer to that, but maybe in the future we'll learn a little bit more about it. Any other questions? No?
Nope, I think that's it for now.
Okay. Okay. Again, forms I think is an issue, an area that we really have to pay some attention to. Give your users clear feedback from their interactions. So if they complete a form and it's not completed correctly, use icons, use text to let them know what fields they put invalid information in, use color to highlight the background, use all three of these techniques. And my question I want to throw out now is has anybody been able to do something like this in Elementor where you can say, okay, field, your email is invalid and I need your website. Has anybody done that? Yeah.
I've created messages in there, but I can't think of if you can for each field. I mean, I'm sure there's a way to do it with code, but if you can't do it in there.
Well, from an IT perspective, you either want a drop-down box with the allowed answers, right? Think the list of states. That's the easy example.
Yeah.
Right? You know, if there's only a certain number of allowable answers, those should be in some form of a drop down.
Yeah. But something like,
Like an email or street address, you need to have a single text field. I've encountered this before, where I was trying to make something highlight in the actual text and I wasn't able to do that with Elementor. You only get the notification at the bottom of the form. That was the only native settings I was able to tweak within Elementor without doing any additional code.
okay.
There's a lot of places
Doesn't the-
where only, well, where rich text, are people aware of the term rich text?
Yeah.
You know, where rich text isn't supported.
But don't you have the option to like say required and then it shows up what fields required when you try to submit it? Yeah.
You could do that. Yeah. I think she means, can you put a specific message for the field? I think it will do it based on how you put the input. Like if you put it's a number, it'll say you must enter a number. I think
Right.
Chrome does that by default, at least even.
But if you, in this example here, an incorrect, invalid email was entered, you can see it's hq.example.com.
Oh, yeah,
So-
because it's a double @ sign.
So I'm just wondering if anyone has done that in Elementor. That would be cool to be able to
That
do.
might, you know, that might be something as simple as it's not allowed in HTML. That may come from somewhere completely different.
Gotcha.
You know, that's all I'm going to say on that, because that's I mean, I haven't even seen people much do that.
Yeah.
Uh,
It is helpful though. I've filled out forms incompletely or not correctly. And then I've had a message that says, hey, you've got the wrong telephone number, wrong format. I found it to be helpful.
yeah.
Okay, well, there is a link in the slides to a site that talks more about putting messages in on forms. Okay, well, moving right along. Styling and identifying links. So when you describe a link, let's say someone has a screen reader, the reader will actually read what the link says. In this case, it says click here for job application instead of click here. So I'm not certain, but I think this is also helpful for SEO. I'm not certain about that. But this is a good practice. Underline and change the appearance of a link when it's hovered, and ensure that links are not broken, because I saw lawsuits where links were broken. And be consistent with the styling throughout your website. Always be consistent. Organize your yes?
Is it possible to hover with a smartphone?
I don't think it is. Anybody else?
There is like, you can hover, but it's very not like easy. Like the user experience for it is very complicated. So like it only hovers when you've actively tapped it. And if you don't want it to engage that action, you have to like keep your finger on that spot. So that way it doesn't, and then you would have to scroll. It's really complicated. So there really is no native hover feature to mobile.
That's what I thought. And what you're describing, Tyler, sounds new, but that's one reason why I don't, you know, I would only go into very carefully defined applications on a smartphone. Some things, if you can't, you know, like what do you do if somebody's sending you a funky, you've got a spammer and you can't hover over the sender address, for example.
Yeah.
And so that's a separate comment in terms of
Yeah.
security, which is what I focus on.
I think that's a good point. It's a good point. All right, unless there's any other questions, I'll move on to the next slide.
Maureen, I can confirm one thing. I checked on the background here. Elementor, I don't see a way to create any validation like on each individual field, but you can, it looks like you can do so with Gravity Forms. If you're using that, you can change it on there. So I checked on that, which Gravity Forms is awesome, by the way, if you've never used it.
Yeah.
How does Gravity Forms fit in with Elementor?
It's the last I checked, and the way I need to when you want to style it in there, you need like something like essential add-ons. I think some of the other add-ons will do it, but I don't think you can style it the best with Elementor on its own. You probably could, but
it takes the inherent theme sometimes. So if like you set your like button colors, it'll take that.
Yeah, essential add-ons will let you do whatever you want to it, so it's a little bit better. But if you know CSS, you're probably fine too.
Okay.
Good. Good. Thanks, Mike. Good to know. Okay. Organizing your content. Use white space. White space is great. I'm originally a graphic designer. I love white space. Use it on your websites too. So use white space and proximity. So pull together all of the information that belongs together and then surround it by white space. Make your headings and your subheadings styled. They should be styled the same. Reduce clutter and compose well-written titles so anybody, disabled or not, knows what your content is about. So over here on the left is bad. Over here on the right is good. It even looks nicer. It's just, well, it's laid out much better. Okay, make your design responsive. Text size on mobile versus desktop is very different. You can and use Elementor, which I do a lot, to make pages for desktop or pages for my mobile. And on desktop, the text is usually smaller because the desktop is large. But on your mobile, you're going to have to take a look at your text, and usually you're going to need to make it larger. You might need to make your logo larger. So make your responsive design accessible too. Make it easy to be read. Use Hamburger Icons for your menus. Okay, now this is what we saw a lot of in the lawsuits on accessibility.com. Alt text for images. Always put in, as we learned, put in your alt text for your image. I would also ask you to put in image descriptions. They are read out loud by screen readers. I don't believe they do anything for SEO, but they are really good for anybody who is visually impaired.
Can I just add, they do a lot for SEO.
Do they?
Alt text, yes.
Oh, no, I mean,
sorry.
about descriptions. Alt text, yes.
There's a small little factor to it. Alt text, yes, but like technically everything should be related to the alt text. So the file name and the description.
Add captions to your images. Oh, thank you, Tyler, for that, by the way. Add captions to your images, and screen readers will also read those out loud. That will help anybody who is visually impaired. But from what we've just seen tonight, alt text is very important on your images. Okay, get rid of your auto-playing function. It can cause folks who have cognitive and neurological impairments to be stressed. This includes things that you would see on like image sliders, carousels, background sounds, and videos. Put in controls so that anybody can go in and have, they could use the sliders if they want. Google, and Tyler and Nancy, you can confirm this for me. Google is also starting to discourage websites from having auto-playing media on them. Nancy and Tyler, have you heard the same thing or read that?
haven't heard that. Tyler looks like he has. He's not.
Oh no, I'm agreeing with you. I haven't heard that either, but it makes sense. And plus it just annoyed me personally. So I could see why they do that.
Okay. All right, so no autoplays. I have to tell you, I have a lot of websites with autoplays, so that's got to change. I have a lot of websites that I have to go back and make these changes on because this is all new. Okay, font size. Again, another no-brainer. Don't have little teeny weeny fonts. Make sure people can read it, whether you're disabled or not. Okay, font type. Script fonts are really fun and they can be beautiful, but you have to use them sparingly. You want to use them in a header, okay. Never ever use a script font in your body content. Use serif or sans serif. Okay, here's something I learned I thought was interesting. Use the abbreviation tag for abbreviations. Does anybody use that? What it does is that on screen readers, if you use this tag, HWO will be read out as World Health Organization instead of WHO. And you can read more about the abbreviation tag at this site here.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
So if I put in here, instead of a WCAG, it would be read out as WCAG, as I say it. Or it would, but if you had the abbreviation tag, it would be read out as Website Accessibility Content Guidelines.
What would it look like visually? Would it just say World Health Organization? If you're just looking at the screen, or just say World Health Organization? It
would just say WHO. But on a reader, on a screen reader, it would be spoken out. The entire name of the organization would be read out as World Health Organization and not WHO with a screen reader. And you can learn more about that at this link here.
Maureen, there was a question out there from Clementio. Hey, Clement, I think I see you in the Elementor Slack all the time. He asked if there's a way to do that in Elementor. I may have missed it. Sorry, I was reading the chat if you said it. Is there a way to add that abbreviation tag in Elementor?
You should be able to use it. There are the HTML widgets that you should be able to put that in.
Yeah, I would say the HTML widget or the text editor widget, you can use HTML within that. So you could use it in that way.
Yeah.
Yep.
Any other questions about that? Okay.
On the other widgets, on the title and all those, you can use HTML, so you can still write it on those widgets.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's true. Sometimes they use the break tag within headings. So yeah, that's true.
Okay. Somebody want to say something? No? Okay. All right, again, we're getting back to keyboard navigation. I don't have all the answers here. With keyboard accessibility, all functionality that is available by mouse is also available by keyboard. I hope sometime in the future, maybe we could have a presentation on how that actually works. I don't have the answers here. So are there any questions about keyboard navigation that I can't answer for anybody? No, okay.
That's a good question.
Okay.
That's a good question.
All right. Everybody, it's 7:23. Can we take like a 3-minute break real quick? Get a little something to drink, something to eat, come back in 3 minutes and we'll continue. Is that all right with everyone?
Perfect.
Okay, good. 3 minutes, I'll be back.
Just want to share this funny little thing. Sometimes I will browse my computer with my controller, my Steam controller, and completely navigate websites and everything through this, and then use voice to text.
Oh, nice, cool. Is that just like a controller for gaming?
Yeah, it's made by Steam, so it's completely like customizable, like what you want things to do with it. So for example, like these back bumpers, I have to like go page down, page up, and then like right top one's tab, top right one's enter, like window screening. It's good for when like I want to work on the couch and I have like the TV set up, but I still want to just like be able to get work done. So I know all about these like tabs and things are without, like if you don't have a mouse.
Yeah, I will say that Elementor out of the box, it seems, is pretty good with the tabbing through websites, because I've tested it on my websites and just click tab just to see. And it seems to be pretty accessible overall with that, in my opinion.
Yeah, right before this, I was throwing all my websites up on like the accessibility grader kind of thing. And I was like, okay, we got B's on all of these. Because I was.
Did you do the Google Chrome the Lighthouse test, or did you do the Wave test?
I used the Wave test.
Okay. Yeah, you can actually get that Wave as a browser extension. I threw that in my.
That's
it's nice. You just click it on any website you're on, you instantly get the score. It's good.
That is definitely a good browser extension.
I've seen that myself. But
I believe Maureen's going to go through that too.
Yeah, I also agree with you, Mike. I've done the tests in like the Lighthouse test, and all without even trying, just using Elementor, my sites come in like they grade high, you know.
Yeah, 90 plus is what my experience is.
Well, and I mean, I'm like, I didn't do anything to make it accessible. It's all good, you know. And I mean, but I'm a stickler for the alt tags and stuff like that. So
I can say that's one thing I do: alt tags, the description.
What if you're like, all right, so here's something that I'm generally worried about now is like all my alt tags are specifically for SEO. So like they don't accurately describe the picture. They're more built around the keyword I'm trying to target. So like, is that something that, because they're misleading to the people who need those alt tags?
Well, I use to keep it around.
Problem. That's not what Google wants you to do either, really.
Yeah, I mean, like
I know I've done it too for SEO, but yeah.
But my experience, it is to upload. I upload the file with the name of the file. Like if you want to use a keyword, as long as it's related to the image, with that, and then I use a different alt text based on what's in the image. That's how I was taught through the accessibility. Which you may get dinged on SEO for that. It may not be as good for SEO, but at least it's more accessible. I would say accessibility before SEO all day.
So it's a balance, and once again, it's another balancing act. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, 7:26. I'm back with my Go Cubs.
Woohoo! All right.
Okay, that can only be appreciated by Mike. Moving along.
There's some other baseball fans out here. We understand.
Okay, here is something, another accessibility feature, and that is to post the transcripts of video and audio content. And I went looking for some more information about this. I heard about Google Android app for audio. I'm not sure it's that great. YouTube transcript, I tried. It's not that great. There are third-party vendors out there that you can pay to get an app that will do this for you. But I did find Veed, Veed.io. And they have a tutorial on YouTube and it's really cool how they can transcribe a video. And it is free for short, small videos. And I believe it's videos under 2 minutes and under 5 megabytes. But if you have a lot of videos, this is something to look into. I thought it was really, really interesting.
Actually not that expensive too. If you pay for the basic version, you get a pretty good gig for 25 minutes. It's like $12 a month.
That's not bad at all.
Yeah.
Not bad at all.
That would save you time rather than having to type all that up.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and the other part is that there's a lot of video. There's a lot of business cases for videos that are that short.
Yes. I think if I was to have a video, some informational video, and not like a training video, I would keep it under 2 minutes. Otherwise, I think people might lose interest. So that might be a good thing to do.
Yeah, that's kind of what
Yeah.
I just took a look at the site, and it looks like it says it's 10 minutes and 50 megabytes, but that it has a watermark on the free one. So I'm not sure.
Yeah. Okay.
But the 10 and 50 is pretty good, but I have no idea what the watermark looks like.
They probably have it throughout on the video, maybe on the transcript, but it might still be worth it. That's pretty good. How many minutes did you say, Mark?
Well, on the website, it says 10 minutes and 50 megabytes
Okay.
for the free version, but
With the watermark.
yeah.
That's
That watermark, but that watermark could just be like down in the corner or something. or-
Yeah.
I mean, I see stuff all the time, like made by whatever that option is on the phone, like made by Kinematics or whatever they call it. And I
Right.
mean, it's just an app to make a video,
Yeah.
So I don't
Certainly
think-
worth testing.
Yeah.
well, sure, it's not a big deal. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, check out the YouTube tutorial. It's really very cool. It's amazing how far we've come with this stuff.
And one I will mention too, has anybody heard of Microsoft Stream? Anybody try that? So Microsoft Stream is like Microsoft's YouTube. It literally looks exactly the same. I teach a course at a college and I use it to upload the lectures for the students. And it actually, it like YouTube, it will write out the script, but it does much better than YouTube. It's actually really good from what I've seen so far. It will get some words wrong, but you can go in and easily edit it and fix the ones that look a little bit off. I don't know if Microsoft Stream is pay. I get it through the college, so I don't know if you have to pay for that or not, but it is essentially like YouTube for Microsoft. Check out Stream.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Well, I know that's part of Microsoft 365. I'm not sure if it's part of Office 365. I know this because I sell Microsoft 365 as part of a very secure solution. But it is worth looking at. I know that, and I appreciate, Mike, your comment on it. And I'll have to go look at that for myself, and maybe I'll have somebody to contribute down the road.
Okay, that'd be great. All right. Okay, some other considerations to building accessible websites. Your site should have the ability to change font size, and I have a list of accessibility plugins that can do that for you. Don't have complex designs, make them clean, clear, readable, nothing complex. And reduce animation and flashing. I don't like that. I don't like animation, flashing, things moving all over the place. Do not like it. Not only are they distracting, but they can also cause seizures in some people. So don't do that. Okay, so I pulled together a list of some plugins, and this is what those plugins can do for you. Resize the font, turn on high contrast, lighten up the background, link to sitemaps or feedback or help pages, enable a skip to content link. Does anybody know what a skip to content link is? Okay, what it is at the top of the page, there will be the link that will skip anything that is sliders or some images, and it will bring you directly to your main content. And that's called a skip to content link. So if somebody has got a screen reader and they're not going to see a slider, they can look for the skip to content link and get to the main body of information. Plugins will also have that outline, that dotted outline for focusable elements that we talked about earlier. This is a good one. It will identify images without alt attributes in the media library. And again, we know how important that is. They add labels to standard WordPress form fields. They add post titles to read more links. I guess that's if you're going to read more, you've got just an excerpt. You're going to have the post title in that read more link. And you can add an accessibility bar. Has anybody seen that in action? The accessibility bars? That's very cool, very cool. And it just, it changes the entire website. And you could make the background black and the text white or vice versa. But
Mike,
and it
don't
does
you
a lot
have that
of-
on your site?
Sorry, Tyler, say that again.
I was going to say, don't you have that on your site? Is that what I'm thinking of? The accessibility bar?
Not, you mean like the little guy where you can click it and it'll give you,
Yeah.
if that's that, then I do, yeah.
Is that what that is?
I don't know if that's the accessibility bar.
Well, there'll be a plugin where you can get that.
Maybe that is that. I just didn't refer to it as that. It might be. We'll see. Stay tuned.
Yeah, okay, let us know. Okay, there are some theme-related controls. That tab index that I had mentioned earlier, again, this relates to keyboard navigation, not using the mouse. Some themes have this feature, but you have to make sure that it is configured to be on. Many themes use custom drop downs and submenus. You have to check to make sure that they are selectable through the keyboard. And visible outline focus, again, sometimes the themes disable that functionality for outline focus, that dotted border around interactive elements. So you have to check and see what your theme does and what it may be omitting. Okay, so we talked a lot about this, what you can do for your website to make it accessible. It's not all that complicated. I think, again, last time I'll say this, it would be nice to learn more about keyboard navigation. Are there any questions about what I've gone over so far? Okay, all right. Using yes.
Can you show an example of the accessibility bar? Do you have example?
I don't. I'm sorry. I wish I
Okay,
did.
thank you.
But you'll see a list of plugins, and if you check them out, you'll see an accessibility bar in some of them. I have seen it in action. I really like the way it works, and it's so easy to make a website more accessible to folks with disabilities. So I'm sorry, Clement, that I don't have one to show you.
Maureen, I just did a quick Google search because I never heard it called that, but there is a free plugin you can get, Clement. And I think I actually learned about it through Elementor. I'm trying to get the link here. Where, I mean, we can look at it at some point and I'm not finding it right now, but when I find the link to the plugin, I'll send it in the chat. So.
Okay, great. Good. I might even have it at the end of.
The White House's website. That's usually.
Yes, that's
so like,
it. That's the one, Tyler.
Yeah.
That's the one. Thank you. I knew there was one that I had seen. And not only that, take a look at the White House's descriptions for their photos. They are so detailed. You know exactly what's going on. So check out the descriptions on the photos for the White House website. How did you figure that out? I was racking my
I just knew from like their campaign that they were really like targeting accessibility and disabled people. And I remember when I was looking at their website, them having that. And then it just put two and two together right there.
Yeah, it was actually Joe Biden's. It was actually Biden's website. I don't know if the White House has it.
Yeah, it was. I just searched Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, just because I remember seeing it during their campaign, and then White House came up, and I was like, well, the White House should have it if they're publicly accessible.
Yeah, but I think it's JoeBiden.com. I think was got the thing.
I just saw it fairly recently.
Level have it.
I saw it fairly recently, so I think that site is still up. But yeah.
Yeah.
That good memory.
No, I don't know. I mean, it was Joe Biden that had it.
Yes. Yeah, Biden or the White House. I think it is Joe Biden. Good.
JoeBiden.org or something. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Good. Okay, use an Elementor to make your site accessible. Elementor has made enhancements to achieve better accessibility, and you need to activate them. They are not active by default. Go into Elementor, Settings, and the Experiment tab, and this is the window you will see. Go down to the Accessibility Improvements text, and on the drop-down menu, what you want to do is activate it. What you get from this new feature is that there will, Elementor is now removing empty A tags. And I think if I understood it correctly, that was one of the problems that we saw in the lawsuits. A tags that didn't go anywhere. I'm not exactly, I may be wrong with that. But those empty A tags do conflict with accessibility guidelines. It also improves keyboard navigation, which I'm thrilled about. Still want to learn more about it, but that's what this enhancement will do. And according to Elementor, these changes will help improve the ranking and accessibility of user sites. There is a little disclaimer here. This improvement includes markup changes which may affect any custom code that you have put onto your site. So be alert. You can learn more about it. Again, here is the link. Okay. Any questions about that? Pretty straightforward. All right. Okay, so here is a tool. Has anybody heard of the Wave tool? Okay. All right, so a couple of you have, that's great. It's an accessibility evaluation tool. It's created by WebAIM along with the University of Utah. I think it's a community college in Utah. And you can evaluate your website or anybody else's website by just entering the URL. Just want to say that this is not the end all to determining if your website is accessible, but it's a really good start. So what I'd like to do is show you the Wave tool in action. And I'm going to stop sharing here. Hold on. And okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm going to look at my own website. I'm going to check out the accessibility. Before you all do this, just scroll down a little bit and read and just run this video. It's a really good video. It tells you what's going on with Wave, what the tools are. Don't try to do this without reading because you won't get as much out of it. Okay, so let's see how accessible my website is, the homepage anyway. So here we go. Okay. I don't know if anybody else, if you're familiar with this, if you've heard about it, have you actually tried it on a website? This is telling me I have 3 errors. So I'm going to figure out what they are. I have no alerts. That means something that's not awful, but could be changed. I have none of those. I have 4 features that makes accessibility better. The structural elements are basically your header, your navigation, your H1, H2, etc. And then contrast errors. We talked about contrast. So if I go here to the errors, and I'm going to look at the details, this is telling me that I have a linked image that is missing alt text. I'm very glad that that was brought to my attention. I will fix that. And I have 2 empty links. So if I click here, this should bring me to.
I experience sometimes it doesn't. I get into that too, but sometimes it, usually when you click those, it will, but sometimes it won't for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah, right.
Is that an accessibility issue?
Yeah.
Or is that just a user experience issue?
Yeah.
User experience.
I think both.
So, yep, that is correct. So yeah, it should be bringing me there, but it's not. But it will tell you where by looking at the website, I can see here that I have a contrast error, but right here, let's go here. This is let me see what this is. Okay, here is a linked image that's missing alt text. So this is telling me I've got to go in and I've got to put some alt text in for my logo here. And you can do your reference. It tells you what it's all about, what that error means. And then you get to look at the code. I'm going to hide that. Over here, I know that I've had some contrast errors. And if you look below here, I have failed the conformance levels for AA. So I'm in trouble here. And if I come over here, it's the low contrast on this background. If I come here for the foreground color, which is the text, and I just move this around a little bit, I just passed. Did you see that happen? I passed the AA conformance level. So that will tell me, okay, here I could use this code, this formula to go in and change my text and meet AA. It would be nice if I got an overall score. I don't know what my overall score is. That would be nice to see. But I'm thinking it's not too bad once I take care of the errors on these 3 errors that I see here.
Maureen, you can get the overall score using Lighthouse.
Will it give you the level? Will it tell you what the conformance level is in Lighthouse?
It gives you a percentage. From 1 to 100, how much accessible you are.
Okay. Does it give you like a range, like what percentage is
90 and above is 90 and above is acceptable.
So all you need 90 and above?
Yes.
Okay, good. That's good to know. All right, thank you for that. Any other questions? Try this.
Do you have a comment? So you may have mentioned it, Maureen, not sure, but so since Maureen's logo has words in it, signature graphic design, which most logos will, you'll want to make sure your alt text has those words in it. Because, or if you have any words within an image, like if it's an advertisement image and it says like 30% off, you want to make sure your alt text says 30% off and clearly describes that there is actually text within the image. I think they discourage it when possible to have text in an image, but if you do, making sure you have the alt text.
Yeah, that's good. I didn't really think about that, but that's good to know. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Check this out, it's pretty fun. All right, I'm gonna stop sharing, go back to this. Okay. And here is the link to the Wave accessibility tool. All right, now we're down to the resources, and we could probably go through this pretty quickly. I've put them in what I think is an order of importance. Start on the W3c website and go and learn about the WAI, which is the Website Accessibility Initiative. Then go to this website. This is a first review of website accessibility. It's very readable, it's easy to understand, and it will help you to think through what your site needs to be accessible. Then you could go down to the WCAG quick reference, which is not so quick, but there's a ton of information there. They also have a really neat demonstration of what a site looks like before and after accessibility. And then the edX, I looked into this because Mike had mentioned it on a meetup, I think 2 meetups ago. Mike is certified. He received certification in website accessibility. I didn't, but it is excellent. And I think everybody should take a look at this, and you will learn a ton of information. And you'll also be able to look at a website from the point of view of somebody with a disability. More resources. Elementor has a couple of blog posts, and they're really quite good. And I borrowed a lot of their information. So check that out. Here are some links to their blog posts. And under this, again, more resources that you can check out. Again, here are a continuation of resources. I found a lot of good information on college websites about accessibility. So that I was surprised, but you know, you go to a college website and check accessibility and don't know what will come up. Here are some plugins and tools. We talked about Wave, the contrast checker. Here is an article with the 10 website accessibility plugins and tools to make your site inclusive. The color shark, the analyzer, color palettes that you can use. That's easier for folks with who are visually impaired. Here's another palette builder, button contrast checker. There's probably more tools here than you need. Google Color Tool, and now we get down to the plugins. Here are a few that I found, and I think you should check them out. W3c Accessibility plugin. Does this sound familiar to you, Mike? Are there any down here? One-click accessibility with the accessibility bar. GigaPress, best.
Yeah, I posted a couple in the thing. Let's see. W3c Accessibility is one.
Okay.
Pojo Accessibility is one I've used. One-click I've heard of. Yep.
Okay.
There's also ones that are more expensive you can pay for, accessible.com, and there's another one I was just looking at too.
Okay.
Is that all the list you have, Maureen?
What's
Is
that?
the end of is that the end of the list?
Of the list?
Do you have more plugins to suggest? Or is that
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, right here. Those were the accessibility plugins. This is the video editing plugin, which is I mentioned earlier. And here is it's a tool actually for adding captions or dialogue for podcasts. I think it was basically very similar to the pricing to read for a short podcast. It's free, but anything over that, you will pay for it.
There's another plugin which is Accessibility, a company from Israel, and it is a very good plugin. It's a little bit expensive, that $490 a year subscription, and it gives you very good things, and it's more comprehensive than many of the other W3c Accessibility and all other plugins, because it goes much more beyond just enlarging font size, increasing and decreasing contrast, and things like that. It goes into a whole lot of disabilities. It's Accessibility.
Yes. Has anybody read the article about a lawsuit that Accessibility is involved in? There is an article out there, apparently, and I'm remembering, they claimed that they would make a website accessible, but their claims what actually happened did not meet their claims. So there is some type of legal action with Accessibility.
They took action on that, and they revamped the website about a week or two ago.
Okay.
Because they were kind of overrating the ability of the plugin, and it's impossible to have a plugin able to solve all the problems. The real problems of accessibility are done behind the scenes, mostly by us developers. Correctly, using alternate text correctly, using the headers correctly. I mean, it's done by hand, most of it.
And I think a lot of user experience too, Oscar. We need to be able to go in there, even as a person without a disability, and make sure that we can easily read fonts or we can navigate. That's also as important. It's a manual review of the websites to look for accessibility. So there, yes, we have plugins, and then yes, there is what we do on the back end, and then there is manually reviewing it.
I was invited to a podcast from a guy that runs, no, it's not Elementor, it's not an Elementor group. It's a Happy Neighborhood Project group in Wisconsin. He runs an accessibility, and he has a YouTube channel for accessibility that has a lot of information also. And it's good. Actually, I mean, the benefits of accessibility, of dealing with accessibility on a website is basically first, it's according to CDC, 1 out of every 4 American adults have some type of disability. It's exactly 26% according to CDC. So if you're accessible, you're going to be expanding your market reach.
Exactly.
Which is extremely important.
Yes.
Second, having an accessible website is going to have the big advantage that it's going to be easier to be understood by Google. So you're going to end up ranking better. That's the second advantage. And third, you're going to be inclusive. You're going to be avoiding a lawsuit for discrimination. Okay? And that's the morally right thing to do, be inclusive. That's why I got that much into accessibility.
Very well said, Oscar. That's very well said. That's what everything you're saying is true, and it's very important. Excellent points.
I've been working with it for a year and a half so far.
So I'm just thinking from the perspective of like a web designer. You do your due diligence to make it accessible. You do these scores, you generate these things, but let's say it's not perfect. Let's say there's still a few broken links and things like that. Like, do you know if there's like a certain does it have to be perfect so that way you don't get in any legal trouble, or is like there's still margin for error just because that's just the way some things are?
There's a key word for that, and it's reasonably accessible. Reasonably accessible.
So like if you got like a 90 or above in Lighthouse,
yeah,
like you can say like, okay, well, all these things are pointing to say that I am accessible.
Actually, AAA is almost impossible to reach for what I've read. AAA rating, it's basically impossible to reach.
Well, if we were a large enterprise with a lot of developers on board, we might be able to do that. But yeah, I think if you can meet AA conformance level, and I would look at W3c and WCAG guidelines before, I mean, just after doing this research, that's where I would be more comfortable trying to figure out if I am truly accessible rather than Lighthouse.
Okay.
Just because I've done this research. I'd have to look a little bit more into Lighthouse, but you know, this is where the guidelines come from WC3 and the initiative. I think that's where you would want to start.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yeah. I also need to start implementing like some kind of like signature or approval thing, because this is something I bring up to clients. It's like, hey, do you want your website to be accessible? And most of them just go, no, I want something fancy, or I want this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, another part of that, Tyler, that Maureen and I actually talked about was, what if your client does get sued?
Yeah. Do you have the liability because you built
the way you think about it is this: if you, and I'm not a lawyer, disclaimer here, so I'm not going to get legal advice, but if you have your accountant do your taxes and he messes it up or she messes it up, and who do you think the IRS is going to go after? Not them. They're going to go after you. So you hired them to do it. It's your, obviously that wouldn't be good for your name if you did make their site inaccessible, and that could get messy. So you want to do your best, obviously, right? But we're human, we're not perfect, laws change. So the best we can do, we can use it as a competitive advantage to learn these things and be the best at it possible, because that can set you apart from your competition if you are the best. It's a good way to make a challenging situation better, right? And to get the best out of it.
Not only that, Mike, it's not only going to set us apart. There is something that not everybody knows, and you can have it for free as a client. There are tax credits and tax deductions up to $10,250 that you can either have as tax credit and or tax deduction if you apply that to accessibility. So it may end up being free. We may charge more for the website because we're doing extra work, but
Yes.
the client is going to recover that money from taxes and their tax credits for that.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't think it definitely wouldn't hurt to make all that clear up front too, though, Tyler, to say, you know, like, I think I put on mine something like, I'm not responsible for the content on your legal pages, but I'll provide you a guidance. Then I'll point them to Termageddon to help them, because that's probably their best, unless they want to pay for a privacy attorney, that's fine too. But, you know.
Yeah, I just wanted to interject and see if anybody has some insight into this. That's one thing is I don't like to, you know, tell clients, oh, I'll make your website accessible and vouch for that, because there isn't really and correct me if I'm wrong, there's not really anybody to really certify. There are people you can pay that will do a review, and you can say, okay, I have a review, I have an accessibility audit from this company that says this, but there's not really an official company or an official verified source that can certify that the website on such and such a date was accessible and met those standards. You know, we can kind of do due diligence and we can do our best and we can try, but there are, you know, my understanding is that there are a lot of attorneys out there that are just looking to kind of generate cases, that are looking for targets.
Yeah, I've heard that.
And can look around and, you know, fish for things. And then, you know, so it's a difficult thing. It's a little bit like the privacy thing. I don't want to get in the habit of, you know, I don't want to get to where I'm writing their privacy policy or anything either, for the same reasons. But there isn't, you know, so I basically recommend some accessibility firms and whatnot, because I don't want to get really into that game fully where, you know, I put my legal stamp on it. Oscar, it sounds like since you've studied this so much, do you have any additional insight into that area? Because I certainly would like to do the best for my clients, but don't want to get in a sticky hole, you know, kind of.
I've been reading, and I had the opportunity by mid last year to attend a full month of 2 and 3 meetings a week about accessibility with the group of Elementor Costa Rica. And we had a lot of insights on there's people, very good people in Costa Rica right now talking accessibility. And it is becoming more popular. So it's there are, I mean, the resources that Maureen has pointed out are exceptional. It just takes time. It takes time, and I mean, but it's something that we have to do.
But I mean, no. But I mean, even if you do it, even if I do everything as good as I can, the issue is that there's aspects of it that are subjective, because there's compromises here and there. Did I write a good enough description for a particular photo or things like that? You know, in some cases, for example, you don't want to put an alt tag in because you don't want to describe the photo if it's extraneous. Or
if it's for decoration, you're not required to.
Right, decorative purposes,
Yep.
where it can
You
cause.
have to declare that as a decorative picture.
Right, but my point is, these are subjective. You know, that somebody else may come up with a different assessment of the situation. And so if a lawyer is looking at it and they're looking to target a client because they just feel like that client has deep money, you know, potentially, they may generate a lawsuit, even though I've done my due diligence, and because they've found some points that they think that maybe they can add some pressure to a client, to, you know, to somebody, to a target, and get them to settle. And so getting into those situations, is there anybody that is widely accepted in US law as to, like, you know, that can review a website and stamp it with approval, and you can, so I could say to a client, hey, you know, you pay $1,000 to this company and they'll give a full assessment, and you can just, you know, show this, and that'll show that you approve that you've done your due diligence. Because if it comes down to me, you know, then, you know, I don't really like that.
Well, I'm looking in the chat right now, and it looks like Matt Olson. I don't know, Matt, you want to jump on and talk through it, but he said he works at an insurance industry. We are told by compliance we have to solve A or AA issues within 6 months of reporting. Agree that AAA is nearly impossible. We use Cite Improve as our source of validation, and then he listed the link there as well.
That's great.
Yeah,
Check
that's
that out.
good
So
stuff.
that's a good source. That's a good resource. But right here in Miami, I mean, I got into this about a year and a half ago because a friend got a lawsuit because his real estate website was not accessible. And we ended up finding out that there is a company, a law firm in Miami that has hired several blind people to hop from website to website. And as soon as they find one that is not accessible, they just file a lawsuit, they recover money, and they pay the blind person
Yeah.
with that
Right.
referral. And that's happening a lot.
The other thing too, do you all do an accessibility statement? Does everybody do that? Or has anybody not heard of that?
Accessibility
is that?
does give you a monthly accessibility statement.
Yeah,
Because
so
they
it's
really-
basically like a statement you can put on your website to say, here's all I've done to make this website as accessible as possible. If there's something that is not fitting your standards or you're having trouble with, email me here and I will fix it. So it's basically being proactive to say, you know, if I miss something, tell me, so I'll fix it. That would look good to you if you were to get a lawsuit filed against you, I think, you know, to say that you had that. I think that'll work in your favor overall. I would imagine,
If-
not legal advice, but I would imagine.
But an attorney told me that as legal advice. I mean, just do it, do that.
But you
Big
know,
rock.
if a compliance department, which has to live in this very uncertain world of a very judgment sensitive world, and an insurance company says you have up to 6 months to fix this, that's, you know, that's a pretty robust, I don't want to say, that's a pretty robust way to get to a solution. I mean, 6 months is a lot of time from once you get notice. So I think we have the elements here that you can at least have something plausible that if anything ever really goes against, you know, if you do get sued, that we've talked through a lot of the pieces that are we now know more than most people, and we're way ahead, you know, and I feel like we're sufficiently up on this that you know, we can work to make our own judgment at a point.
Now, keep in mind that in 2018, we went from 32 to 50 accessibility requirements. And in 2021, they're going to review that. So eventually it may happen that what we do on accessibility now at this time of the year, by the end of the year, we may not be at the level AA.
Yeah, well, you know what? In every business that is undergoing rapid change, that is kind of, those are the market conditions. So Oscar, you know, it's, you know, the days of one and done, right? Which was the way you know, which was that if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You know, those days are long gone. We are now having to iterate software, to iterate engineering, et cetera, et cetera. So I find what we've learned here today to be very practical.
Yeah, if you want to do something fun too, run the Wave tool on the accessibility websites. I just ran it on siteimprove.com and there are errors and contrast errors. So nobody's perfect, right? They're fixing accessibility and they have, according to Wave, accessibility errors. Now remember, take Wave with a grain of salt because Wave is not a yes or no, it's just suggestion. So it's just helping you get there.
That's kind of what I was going to say is, like, for example, the contrast issues is just what it can automatically detect. So if you've got, for example, a background graphic behind something and it's not looking at the pixel colors, it's looking at just whatever background color is set. So, you know, if you have a graphic laying behind something that is a somewhat different color, then, you know, in that part of it, then, you know, so there's all these kind of things that can, intervene, and then it depends on the resolution and exactly what's overlaying what. So
Well,
there's
you
all
might have
these.
explained why I'm getting that. I just built a new site. I'm getting a contrast error, and it's white text over a dark overlaid picture. And I'm like, there's no way, like, you can easily read this. I mean, like, and I have one of those accessibility bars on there too to help people, but
Yeah.
I cannot figure. I'm like darkening that overlay more and more, and you can't even see the picture, so
No,
it becomes worthless, right?
I've got white on black, and I've got to see exactly why. I think because I have a div inside of a div, and that, you know, the color div is deeper in the document object model, and so, you know, so I get all kinds of false readings when I run these, and so, you know, I have to really weed through it, and I like weeding through it. It's interesting to me.
But
And
that's like similar to what we were just discussing. There's you work on the back end, and then you also have to work on the front end. You have to look at the site, and that's where user experience comes in. If we could get folks like the lawyer in Florida who has blind people going through websites, that's what we need to really see if we're where we should be with accessibility. And then that's what I have read. It's not just those changes that we make on the back end. We have to look at it from the front and see if it works for everybody. And that leads me to my very last slide here. Accessibility is usability. Everyone needs it, whether we have a disability or not. So if you can make a website accessible for everybody, it should be working for those who are disabled also. And everything that Oscar said about increasing your number of visitors and increasing your profits because you've got more sales, there's a case, and I have a link to that, the business case for having an accessible site, because more people will come to your site. And my very, very last slide is some of the questions that I had that I don't have answers to. Like, what is our responsibility? And I guess we talked about this as web designers or developers for accessible sites. If our client gets sued, what about us? How does that affect us? Does it affect us?
It depends on what you offer the client. You cannot offer a website that is accessible. You have to offer to do your best of your knowledge and to apply the best of your knowledge to have a website reasonably accessible. But if you offer that it is accessible, they're going to find a break, and you're going to be in trouble. So don't be absolute on the offer. Make it reasonably accessible.
exactly, that was exactly my concern, Oscar.
Yeah.
Is that over-promising, and you know, I may think it's accessible, and a lawyer may disagree.
And even in the offer, you should have a paragraph saying that you're not a lawyer, you're very far from being, you don't want to be, and you hate them, but it is responsibility of your client to get legal advice, especially for privacy policy and accessibility statement.
Yeah.
So do you all find that if you work on making your sites more accessible, will it raise, do you think it's going to raise your production costs? I think yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anytime I'm
It
doing anything with privacy or accessibility.
Put a lot more, it definitely does, because it requires you to put a lot more effort on it. Basically, we're not selling websites, we're selling time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's also the aspect of training, because most of the websites, you know, if I build one for a client, they're adding constantly content. So in terms of training them about what to watch out for when they're adding content, because even if at delivery at launch, it's set, you know, it has to be audited periodically in order to make sure it remains accessible.
Now, there is one thing that I've noticed over time, and I used to upload pictures on the media library, and just the way I uploaded it, I mean, obviously I optimize them on size and all that. But now I'm taking care when I create the image or something to put the right name, the right file name. And as soon as I upload it to the media library, I just type a description of it. And it becomes a habit.
Mhm.
The same thing than not making the mistake of using the heading tags for formatting purpose.
Mhm.
Those are structural tags. They're not formatting for formatting purposes. See? So it becomes a habit, and it's really fairly easy to become accustomed to do that type of thing, and you're going to end up easily with an accessible website.
Well, another question I had, because most of the sites that I saw that had lawsuits levied against them were online e-commerce sites. So if we just have some kind of informative website, should we still follow WCAG guidelines? Again,
I think these lawyers are going where the money is, and when they see e-commerce, where it's somebody that has a large offline presence, that's where they're targeting first. That doesn't mean they won't turn to informational things as well. I think if it was an informational site for for let's say for a brand that has money, even if there's no e-commerce aspects, that's going to become a high profile target.
Mark, those big companies, there's no money for the attorneys there. They have already taken care of the ADA compliance problems.
I'm not necessarily talking really large companies. I'm talking companies that may be regionally large. So you may have a regional player, not really a national player, but maybe someone that is, in West Texas or something like that. And then you get some attorneys looking through and saying, okay, who are these top companies in West Texas? And there's a construction firm, let's say, no e-commerce at all, and I'm just making a random example here. No e-commerce at all, but they've got informational things about their concrete or whatnot.
Exactly.
And then they could be targeted. Yeah. I mean, anybody could be targeted, but a lawyer is going to look at it. If they're a lawyer that specializes in this, my guess is a lawyer would look at the cost benefit of spending time with it. If it's somebody working out of their home, doing something small that they don't think has deep pockets, my guess would be that they're not going to really spend a lot of time on that. But the way I think you cover the bases for all sizes of websites, because you want to be accessible. The only issue is in terms of if you're kind of worrying and thinking what are the likelihood of being sued, my guess would be the more money is around the situation, the more likelihood of a lawsuit happening.
I mean, wasn't Beyonce like one of the first celebrities sued over website accessibility?
Beyonce? For real?
Yeah, I remember hearing
Wow.
something about that's what put this on my radar, was Beyonce was sued over her website's accessibility.
Get out of here, man.
I hadn't heard that. That makes sense.
So I mean, they're going. I mean, it makes sense what you're saying too. Is they're going follow where the money flows. So
Well,
I mean,
of course, follow the money, right? I mean, that only makes sense. I mean, you're not gonna if you can sue Coca-Cola over some freaking Moxie. I mean, you're gonna sue Coca-Cola, right? I mean,
yeah.
Verner's versus Coke. I'd rather sue. I'd rather sue.
Well, I think the challenge is awareness, because we know about it, but if you ask anybody on the street, they know what accessibility is. They're gonna be like, what? Like, what do you mean? Like for a
wheelchair?
A wheelchair, yeah, like a parking spot, you mean?
Yeah,
They're not going to think a website.
Yeah, trying to explain this to clients, it really goes nowhere, which is why I'm just like, okay, well, I'll do my best.
It's a good opportunity to make a blog too. I mean, if you want to build some content for your website to promote yourself, I mean, it's a good way to do that too. But then you come with a challenge of, you have to back that up. So making sure that you do.
And you're right. Yeah. The official website violates actions with Americans with Disabilities Act 1990, denying visually impaired users equal access to its products and services. True story. It was a class action lawsuit, and it was Beyonce, and it was 2019, I guess.
Yes.
Wow.
It's interesting. I think more people are going to become aware. This and privacy are just starting to boom. It's like, it's becoming a bigger and bigger deal, especially as people are all at home right now in front of their computers. I bet you there's a lot more web developers than there was a year ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Competition.
Well, let's hope that it can be reasonable, you know, to where we actually have a chance to fix these things before it turns into something bad. That's hopefully it goes in that direction. Instead of having like lawyers pick on, or, you know, if they are in fact going after websites, just trying to pick on them, that doesn't seem helpful to the cause either.
Mike, I'm going to turn this back over to you and stop sharing.
Okay.
Give it back to you.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Yep. I'm going to pull up my last couple slides here. All right, hold on. Stop one. Okay. All right. So next month, we are going to have a roundtable discussion. It's going to be a little bit different. We won't have just one presenter. We'll have everybody will be a presenter if you want to be. Bring your best plugin for site speed or your best tips for how to make your site faster. This could be, you know, a plugin that you like to use or just a practice that you like to use. We're all going to be able to share if you want to. You don't have to. It'll be more of a discussion than it will a presentation. So sort of what we did in like the month 2 or 3 that we had, where we kind of just went over a bunch of stuff that everybody uses. So feel free to bring your tips. I know last month I got a great, I've heard you guys talk about it a lot, rank math. And I've been using that now. I'm switching to that now because it is freaking awesome. Like the redirect, just the 404 redirects, a lot, like tracking all that alone is just amazing. Yeah,
amazing.
That is just outstanding. Like I just built a site for someone. They have all these old dead links from their website because it was like this just HTML built terrible website, and I'm catching all of them and able to redirect them to the right place. So it's good.
Rank math is amazing.
Rank math is excellent.
Yes.
And for performance, has anyone tried Nitro Pack?
Yeah, man, you told us about it. What are you talking about? Yeah,
It's like on all my sites now.
it works
I
great.
love it.
It works great. I mean, the paid version is nice, but the free version works too. I mean, it's great.
Yeah, so I'm interested to hear what everybody thinks about the footer thing, the thing in the footer, if that's fine for you, because it doesn't look like that's easy to hide. So if you like that, that's fine. But I'm interested to hear next month on that. So we'll save it for then. Also in May, we moved this presentation to May. It was supposed to be in April, but Carlos and I are both a little tied up in April. So we are going to push this to May. It's a regional meetup for Elementor on lead generation funnels. So if you joined us in one of our first couple of meetups, you saw Carlos and you got all his gold nuggets. So come for some more in May. I'll have some more details on that soon once we get that advertised out there in the meetup. So stay tuned for that.
Is that tomorrow's one, Tyler? Isn't that
Yeah,
tomorrow?
I am. Yep, tomorrow I'm doing a presentation on SEO for Elementor Miami. Carlos is
good luck, Tyler. Yeah, good luck on that. Hope that goes well.
Yeah, appreciate it.
I'm gonna be there.
I mean, you guys essentially got the other version of it, whereas building a landing page for SEO versus SEM. So this one will be a deep dive specifically into SEO if anyone's interested.
Yeah, Tyler, share that out in Slack for everybody that is able to join. I've got a Toastmaster meeting tomorrow, but if they put the replay out there, I would definitely watch it. So if you guys get that recorded.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to try and record more of these presentations that I'm doing just for SEO value and stuff like that. So I'll make sure to have that up in a few days afterwards.
Yeah, man, you can post out and out on Facebook. Hey, check me out on the
Plus, it creates backlinks too, and YouTube has high domain authority. We'll be going into all this tomorrow.
Awesome. Yeah. Hey, blow up Chicago Elementor meetup too. We can get some more people in here. That'd be awesome.
Yes. Right.
Win-win. Does anybody have anything else before we finish? We got about 8 minutes before we officially are finished. So does anybody have any general questions, whether accessibility or else?
Nope. It was a great meeting.
Yeah, good meeting, everybody.
It was great, but I always feel stressed out. Like after like the Termageddon one and this one, I feel like a little stressed.
Yeah, because you're kind of like got a little crab in your pants, wondering if, oh my gosh, am I sitting here waiting for a lawsuit, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about this in Southern California. There's like a whole one group just focused on it all the time, and they're like out of Los Angeles, and a couple of the people have been on like they took part of some contests where they like had to develop an accessible website. So most of the stuff that I mean, today she actually gave us some actual tools that the other ones kind of don't like give us the actual website. They just tell us you should try this, you should do that. That was really cool difference between this presentation and the rest of them. I'd probably sit in like 10 of them And the truth is like what Mark was saying, I think due diligence, I think it was Mark that brought it up, right, Mark? That was you that said if you do your due diligence, you're probably gonna be okay, or somebody said that. And they wrote it in the content. And I think that's probably the truth. And that's based on what they've told us. I mean, they tell us all the little, you got to have the right stuff done, like the simple stuff, like Maureen was saying, like you got to have the alt tags. If you don't have alt tags in your images,
Right.
okay, start there. Right.
Yeah.
And I think to myself, how many people didn't do that? But I mean, then I find out that a lot of people didn't do that.
And they got sued.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like I find out that a lot of people still don't do that,
Uh-huh.
and I'm like, wait, how do you not do that? Right. Because like,
Right.
even like the SEO stuff, they tell you, that you should do that. Right. I mean, and then Tyler said, well, what if I do it for SEO and not for the actual, but
That was a good question.
I think that's okay too, because as long as you say, like, for instance, this person is using, like, let's say it's for a phishing or
Yeah,
right?
I'll stuff a keyword in there.
So
So
we
like,
use a particular gun, let's just say at our tattoo place, or we use the best hygienic stuff. Okay.
Yep.
So you can say, Tattoo Steve is using the such and such nail gun, right? And that's what you're focusing on, the nail gun or the tattoo gun. I mean, for the keyword, right? So such and such a keyword, and this such and such hygienic studio is only at, forevertattoo.com, whatever. You can put that in there and you'll be okay. If you do it for SEO, but actually make it be more of a sentence. I mean,
well, I think too, it should work in theory anyway, because like if you have a picture of like a turtle, you don't want to put like iPhone on it. Like, no, you're going to put turtle, right? Like, obviously, if you're putting a picture out there related to something, it should match.
Yeah, the service from this carrier is slow like a turtle, and the service from this carrier is fast like a rabbit. Right, and you can have the turtle and the rabbit in the same picture, showing the rabbit versus the tortoise versus the hare or whatever. You know what I mean? You, as long as you do it that way, you're going to be okay. I mean, they have to be able to tell what's in the photo, of course. But like he said, you're going to put turtle in there. Sure, you're going to put turtle in there. You wouldn't put iPhone, right? But you could say the turtle shows the slow speed, the hare or the rabbit shows the fast speed. Who cares?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna be all right. I mean, I've looked at your website, bro.
I think like alt text and then headings, making sure your heading structure is proper. That you're not
that's
nesting
another
heading.
thing they talk about. You definitely don't want to have the H3 above like the H1.
Right.
Or more than one H1 on a page too is another one that's
it
big.
sounds like a lot of this is just best practices for SEO and accessibility
and HTML and everything else. I mean, it all kind of goes together.
Yeah.
I think that's exactly what it is. Best practices for works. I mean,
sounds like a good article. Sounds like a good meetup too. So
yeah, essentially Google Spider has accessibility issues. It is a bit disabled, and so when it's reading it, I mean, to have a robot be able to kind of understand the website, it has its limitations, and so when we do this, it works very well for Google, I found.
Yeah, I would say don't be too hard on yourself, because go run that wave tool for like, Facebook or something, and also go run like the speed test for Facebook and even Google sites. Go run the speed test for that. You'll probably laugh at what you see. So
you will laugh, because they're not as good as yours, and they're not as good as mine. So I mean, I'm knowing, and I mean, I got sites that are 10 years old and I was using alt text. Like, I can't believe it. Seriously, can't believe. And I mean, who didn't put an H1 at the top? Then I find out that a lot of people.
Yeah, me 5 years ago. I think it was Oscar was saying don't use like 8 header tags for styling. That was like my biggest mistake I ever made as an initial designer. I was like doing blogs. I was like, I want a big tag, so I'll do H1. Yeah, no.
And then it never looked right anyway, until you learn how to do something with it. It's like, I can't get this right.
Right, exactly.
I was gonna say, I'm really curious about things like Starbucks. They have games, for example, that they roll out every now and then on the web that tie in, and the games, I mean, they don't feel very accessible. I mean, maybe they are, and I haven't really examined them, but there's things like that when you're extending the functionality much further than normal, just getting content where it's more interactive. I don't know, on some of that it seems like accessibility breaks down. I'd be curious about the legal situation surrounding some of that, where the technology might not be there.
But I mean, my thought was that they always put the games on the sites to keep people on a site longer. Right, like the reason why you put a game or a poll on a site longer is to get more clicks or more stupid crap, on your page. And I thought that kind of went out.
Well, no. In the case of Starbucks, you can like win stars to get free coffees and things.
Oh,
So they have a game if you're on their mailing list or if you have their card. You get every season they have a game that comes out and you can win things.
I've also seen like all these like professional, like really like top of the line web designers, strictly designer, where like they will build their personal sites with these really interactive, like complex, like sites that, and to me, like that just doesn't seem accessible whatsoever. Like
probably
I don't
not.
know. Yeah, like
I think they're probably just showing
their skill, their chops.
Yeah, there's like, but I'm not very good at that. Like personally, I'm just like, I know that I can make a text only website and rank it to the top, for certain keywords if I want to do it. Because I mean, just write, 1,000 words and write it good and break it down and make it easy and answer a question somebody wants to know. And I tell you, it'll soar to the top, right? I mean, if it's good information, they don't care about the other stuff. I mean, they want you to have a picture, but you don't have to have a picture. You can just write it in text. I mean, text, that's what's the bot can read. That's what everybody can read. Doesn't matter. You make it in the right headers. You do the right stuff. You use the white space. Boom. It's a done deal. Bam. Like,
let me just, finish up here. Something I want to kind of add is that, Tyler, that you were concerned after hearing the presentation. That's not what I wanted to do. I think a lot of it is the ability to just go through on some of these simple things, best practices, as Steve
Keeping
mentioned.
it in mind.
Yeah, keep it in your mind. I do suggest going to the W3c site, but it's almost unmanageable, all the information. So what I think I've put together is pretty basic stuff that will help everybody with their website. And if we
I got a lot of golden nuggets, so thank you.
Oh,
it was a great presentation.
I hate to have you, get a sleepless night about this.
Oh, it's a lot of alt tags.
I was worried. Alt tag. I was very concerned about accessibility because I didn't know anything about it. Now I feel a lot better about what I can do for my clients. But again, like Mark said, I'm not going to say I guarantee it, but I'm going to do the best I can, follow best practices, as Steve said. So I don't think we have to worry because we are maybe a little ahead of the game, and we will do a good job. I'm not really that concerned about it.
Yeah,
I mean,
Maureen.
if you're going to these things, you're paying half a brain cell attention to what you're doing. And I mean, like I told you, I've gone to like 10 of these things, maybe more. I mean, I can't even remember. Last year, it seemed like every WordPress meetup I went to in Southern California was about this accessibility thing, right? And none of them were about Elementor. So it was cool that you brought this up in the Elementor meeting, right? So I that's why I was excited for this one. And then of course I didn't know anything about that abbreviation tag, so that's really cool. I mean, I knew it was there, but I never messed with it, never really knew what it was supposed to do. So I've never played with it, and there's places where I can use that, and I appreciate that very much. So I agree with Tyler when he said that's the golden nugget. That was definitely a good one for me. But really, like I think that it just by osmosis, if you sit in these meetings long enough, you do stuff that you don't mess up anymore. Now you're going to think about your H1, your H2, your H3, and in fact you can. There was something that came out later last quarter or something where they said you can actually have two H1s.
Yes,
I still don't do the two H1s, but
I don't do that.
Yeah, and you can have two H1s, but you better make it deep into the text.
I guess like why would you want to though? Like what's the advantage to that anyway?
Well, because you got maybe if it was like the pros of something and the cons of something, right? Maybe it was like
building a landing page for SEO, building a landing page for SEM. They're related.
You
don't
have
want a
SEO
separate
and
page.
SEM on the same building a landing page might be the topic, right? Landing page, and then
wouldn't that be H1 and then SEO, SEM would be H2s?
No, you could do like H1. H1 could be SEM. Landing page for SEM, and H1 could be landing page for SEO.
SEO, yeah.
But
isn't it when they're within different section tags?
We would do it as landing pages for the H1, and then H2 would be for SEO, and H2 would be for SEM. But Google did say recently, I mean, she said she remembered reading it, and it came out. It was probably like last quarter, I think, maybe not.
I thought it was longer than that.
Okay, it was in 2020.
More than one H1.
Yeah, you can have more than one H1. I wouldn't do it. I still don't do it. Rank Math yells at you if you do it. So I don't do it, but you can do it. And I tend to stick with the Rank Math. They get pissed at you if you don't do the tags right. So I mean, to me, that's one of the cool things about Rank Math. The free version is better than the paid version of Yoast. So how can you not?
I paid for Rank Math. It's because you.
I do too.
Yeah.
But I mean, the free version was better than the paid version of Yoast. And
right. Well, also you can put it on 200 sites, I think, or 100 sites or something, right? For business.
I bought it when it was free. I could put it on as many as I want. I bought it a long time ago.
Oh, your grandfather. Well, 100 sites is pretty good though. So that's
I'm good with all the Elementor. I can put on as many sites as I want, and I could. I paid for all that stuff a long time ago. As soon as I was one of the people, the first day they opened up Rank Math Pro, I bought it. I've been using it since
you were on Sumo, weren't you?
Yeah, I was on there waiting for it. And but I've been in contact with them. I use Rank Math.
Good. It's good stuff.
Comes up with what the people use.
It's nice because it connects right to Google, so you don't have to bother putting the tag on your site. It does all that for you. There's so much that it does. It's less plugins you need for things. Sorry, this isn't a selling Rank Math meetup, but I would say thanks for mentioning that. Yoast is good. It's fine. You get a lot more Rank Math in my opinion.
That's true.
You get more to it. Maureen, thank you tonight for the presentation. Everybody, round of applause for Maureen. Awesome job. I think you talked. Yeah, you presented a very tough topic and did very well. It was very engaging. Everybody got some good tools through that. So Maureen, you'll post that PDF out in the Slack group. Is that right?
I will.
Okay, cool. So then everybody get the resource, and I'll get the replay up there as soon as I can.
Save the chat, everybody. Save the chat. If you don't know how to, go down there in the bottom of the chat window, the 3 dots next to file. Save the chat.
Wow, that's another golden nugget for tonight.
Yep, save the chat. Save the chat. I put some links out there for some accessibility plugins too that I found that.
There's a bunch of links in there, so save the chat.
Yep. All right, everybody. So we'll meet back again second week of May for our roundtable on site speed. So bring your plugins, bring your information, do some research if you can, help the group. That would be great. Thanks, everybody.
Okay. Good night, everybody. Good night.
Good luck tomorrow, Tyler.
Appreciate it, guys.
Yep.
See you guys. Bye-bye.